You're listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Thoughts versus reality, and not what you think. Well, hey there, welcome back. If I say thoughts versus reality, your brain goes, okay, this is another one of these motivational, don't just think it, do it, da-da-da-da-da, right? That's actually not what this is about. This is about the opposite. See, when someone normally says thoughts versus reality, they typically are trying to tell you to take action on something instead of just thinking about it, right? What I'm saying is that, or what I'm going to say, is that there's a big difference between thoughts and reality, in that reality is what's happening to you right now. Okay, again, we didn't learn anything, right? Right now you're listening to this podcast. That's your reality. That's your only reality. If you're in your car, you're driving, that's your reality. If you say, I'm going to go to the store tomorrow, that's not your reality. That's a plan. That's an assumption, but it's not your reality. Your reality is what's happening right now, how you feel, where you're looking, what you're doing. That is your reality, and that's your only reality. And you can say, but Mark, you're going to tell me to do something in this podcast, and then if I'm really nice, I'll go do it. So we have to plan things. We have to think ahead. We can't just live in the moment. I'm not even saying living in the moment. I'm not saying you don't plan things. Of course people plan things. Of course that's how they happen. But if they're not happening, they're not your reality. And why am I hammering at that? Because thoughts sometimes try to take over. Thoughts sometimes try to assert their power, and you have to assert your power of reality over them, which is the opposite of what most people tell you. You know, think happy thoughts, think positive thoughts, think in that way, create positive emotions and vibrations and ooga booga and all that stuff, and then the good things will come. If you think strawberry thoughts, you'll attract strawberry things, and so on and so forth, right? But what happens when it gets out of hand? For most people, their thoughts can get out of hand. In fact, there's a lot of people these days where thoughts get out of hand, and that's what worry is. That's what, that's what anxiety is. It's about a thing that's going to happen. It's not necessarily about a thing that's happening. If you have a stomach ache and you're laying in bed, your reality is that you have a stomach ache, right? You typically don't get anxiety over the stomach ache itself. You might get anxiety over the fact that the stomach ache may mean something terrible. Oh my God. What if it's this? You don't know though. So it's only a thought. You may be worried about a confrontation with a coworker or something that's going to happen at work tomorrow. And now you're worried about it. Now you don't feel good. Now you keep occupying your thoughts over and over again with the conversation. But that's not your reality. Your reality is that you're in the kitchen. Your reality is that you're making dinner. That's it. That's where your reality ends. Our fight or flight mechanism is great when we are currently being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. The fight or flight mechanism is not supposed to be used when you're thinking about next Tuesday when you might run into one of these tigers. You have nothing to fight or flee from. You see? Because it's not reality. It's not your current reality. Thus is the crux of these thoughts that can get out of hand and ruin your day. You can have an entire day ruined about worrying about an email or a person or a thing or test results, and everything's fine. Well, you just ruined a day because of that, because your thoughts encroached on reality and tried to activate the fight or flight mechanism all day long when you had nothing to flee from or nothing to fight against. You can't fight against the delicious banana bread you're currently making. But your thoughts are like, oh, but what about this? And what's going to happen there? So I'm telling you the opposite that other people tell you, that sometimes thoughts have too much power. Sometimes we need to assert our reality over the thoughts. We pay so little attention to our current reality. In fact, this even goes above or below, depending on how you want to look at it. It even goes above being mindful and living in the moment. Because typically people, when they say living in the moment, they're talking about something a little bit existential, about just enjoy the fact you're with your kids, or you're walking through the forest, or this or this or this. Yes, but I'm talking about literally your reality right now is standing there. Your reality right now is listening to a podcast, or your reality tomorrow is going to be this. Aha, Mark. But you can't even talk about things without using thoughts. If I have to think about tomorrow, that's thoughts. Right. That's correct. Again, I'm not saying you can't think ahead. I'm saying when the thoughts exert control over reality, and they force you to have these physical, emotional, intellectual reactions to something that's not happening, you and your reality need to push back. So I want you to do this exercise for me, okay? And this is the kind of thing I talk about in Three Voices. When you get a thought, or you get thoughts that are making you aware and heightening your senses and kicking in your fight or flight, even if it's the tiniest bit, about something happening Thursday, I want you to use your third voice, your speaking voice, and say, my reality right now is, and then describe what's happening. I'm on the toilet. I'm in the kitchen. I'm doing this. And that might be goofy if there's people around, right? So maybe don't do it then. But think about that. That asserts your reality. And you go, well, yeah, but what? Yeah, but what? That's what's happening right now. So stop being afraid. Stop being frightened. Stop being angry. You're not having that discussion with your ex-husband right now. That was 15 years ago. That was, last month, or, your boss yelling at you, or you yelling at your kid, or whatever. Does that make sense? Does it seem silly, or does it open your eyes to something that you might be doing or have been doing? I understand that you may be thinking, well, Mark, I kind of know this because this is sort of that mindfulness and living in the moment, like we said before, right? But it's not really, because I think mindfulness is something a bit more existential, where you sort of are inside yourself and above yourself at the same time, and you're enjoying all that the universe sort of is offering you at that particular moment in time, the feelings, the senses, all that. At least that's the way I think of mindfulness as. I'm saying this wonderful computer that we have that's calculating and thinking ahead and planning, and, oh, I see a pattern in this, and, that reminds me, oh my God, what's going to happen tomorrow? That gets out of hand. It can and it will get out of hand. In fact, the more attention you commit to your brain into thinking, the more likely something like that's going to get out of hand, which, the opposite being ignorance is bliss, and it really is. Again, the exercise of using your third voice to override your second or even your first is powerful. It's very powerful. And again, it's something that's taken out of the new book, Three Voices. I guarantee you, if you made it this far, are going to try this at least once. I guarantee you're going to try this at least once. At least once, you're going to be standing in the kitchen and you're going to say something out loud to override a thought. I guarantee you. And I guarantee you, it's going to have an impact on you. It might have an impact on your wife, who's going, who are you talking to? That sounded crazy, Bill. But it's useful stuff. And it's the kind of stuff that's in the new book, Three Voices. And I want to hear about it if you do it. I always want to hear about it if you do it. Please. So thank you, and take care of yourself. Hey there, thanks for listening. I always appreciate your feedback. Please keep it coming. Three Voices is out. It's a fun read and only $9.99 US on Amazon. And as of this recording, it reached number 3 in experimental psychology. So thank you so much. Well, actually, all 3 books are now available in hardcover.